Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to another session of the Hindu news analysis for the date 31st December 2024. And today, in the discussion, these are the 10 topics that I'll be taking up. Some of them are from different newspapers as well. One is from Indian Express, and the second one is from Business Line. The 10 topics will basically give you a comprehensive coverage of all the current affairs articles, not only from Hindu, but from other newspapers as well. This has been done in order to ensure that this will be a one-stop destination for all of your current affairs requirements to ace the civil services examination. So if you like this initiative, do hit the like button. And if you're yet to subscribe to our YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Before I start the discussion, two very important announcements. One, if you are somebody who is aspiring to ace the 2026 or 2027 civil services examination, we have an offer wherein if you purchase the subscription for 18 months and if you do not clear the 2026 exams, provided you meet certain conditions, we will provide the extension by 12 months. With this, you'll be able to get 18 plus 12 months of extension in order to ensure that you will get continued access to the online classes in Hindi, bilingual, as well as the English language, the prelims as well as the mains test series, the content material, etc. If you're interested, please do check out the details by clicking the link provided in the description below. In addition to this, I was going through the comments in my previous videos, that is the Hindu news analysis. Many of you have commented asking for PDF. If you want the PDF of today's class as well as the previous two classes that I have taken discussing Hindu news analysis, please do join this Telegram channel. After today's discussion, in some time after the class gets over, you will be able to get the PDF with annotations in this Telegram channel. Now, let me begin the discussion. The first very important article, the central page article, talks about the extradition demand which has been put forward by the government of Bangladesh to government of India. What is the series of events that have taken place in the last, let's say 7 to 8 months? Understand the sequence. On the 5th of August, the then Prime Minister of Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina, fled the country. There were large-scale protests against the government, and that led to the Prime Minister fleeing away from the country. She fled Bangladesh, came to India, and since then, it is said that she is staying in India as a guest of Indian government. Now, following this, there was an interim government that was formed in Bangladesh, an interim government, and Bangladesh is expected to conduct elections either at the end of 2025 or in the beginning of 2026 to form a full-fledged government elected by the people. After this, there were certain disruptions in terms of trade or diplomatic relations between India and Bangladesh. And very recently, representative of Government of India, Minister of External Affairs representative visited Bangladesh and gave certain, let's say, clarity regarding the relationship between India and Bangladesh. And finally, last week, that is in the month of December, last week, the government of Bangladesh officially has sent a request to Government of India to extradite PM Sheikh Hasina, or now simply Sheikh Hasina, former PM Sheikh Hasina. Now, what are the important points that you need to make a note of? Listen to me very carefully. The Indian government as well as the Bangladesh government back in the year 2013 signed an extradition agreement. There is an agreement between Government of India or between India as well as Bangladesh. And this agreement has been used or is very important in terms of, let's say, transferring or exchanging or simply extraditing certain people between these two countries. Now, the same agreement again in 2016 was amended, a change was made to efficiently implement this extradition treaty. Now, according to this particular treaty, one party, that is one country, can basically submit a request to another country to extradite a person under various circumstances. But the party which has basically received the request, one is placing the request and the other one is receiving the request. So in this case, Bangladesh government has placed a request to extradite Sheikh Hasina. Indian government is receiving it. So the receiver on certain context can reject this kind of a, let's say application. There are three parameters or there are three conditions on which the country which is receiving this, let's say plea or let's say request can reject this kind of a request. The three conditions are: one, the person who is being asked to be extradited, the person under consideration has basically been involved in political issues, that is political crimes, allegations of political crimes. Second one is, this particular person essentially is basically not being imprisoned, has not been basically declared by the court. There is no imprisonment as of now, which is of at least 4 months. The imprisonment order should be for at least 4 months. As long as that is not there, even in such instance, basically the rejection can be done. And the third one, the third parameter in this case is, when this request is made, this request is not done in good faith. The request has not been sent in good faith by the other party. So under these three circumstances, the receiving country can reject the appeal for extradition of a particular person. Now, what is the context here? Why government of Bangladesh is requesting extradition of Sheikh Hasina? After Sheikh Hasina fled the country, multiple cases have been filed against her. Many of them are basically accusing the government, which was headed by Sheikh Hasina, of committing crimes against humanity. Crimes against humanity. In addition to this, there are conspiracy cases as well. That is, she conspired with the government officials to kill certain people, to basically nullify the student protest, etc. So, conspiracy cases are also there. And there are also cases alleging financial misappropriation. Financial misappropriation by the government, which is basically alleged against Sheikh Hasina. And if government of India, look at the difficulty now. If government of India decides to extradite Sheikh Hasina, it is almost guaranteed that she will be sent to jail. Even she can be punished with capital punishment. And as such, when she was the Prime Minister, the relations between India and Bangladesh were very good. She has always been a friend of India. So on one side, the dilemma is, if I basically extradite her, she might never see the sunlight again, because the punishment will be so heavy. But on the other side, after there was installation of interim government, the relations between India and Bangladesh have not been on good terms. The trade was disrupted. There were certain concerns raised by government of India against, let's say, the violence against the minorities in Bangladesh, specifically targeting Hindus. So the relations have not been as good as they were before all of this has happened. And if government of India doesn't accept this particular extradition request, these relations might further soar, might further go down in terms of, let's say, engagement. So government of India is in a dilemma now. So what is the solution? What is the way forward? The way forward that has been recommended by the writers here, there are two choices. One choice is, government of India can simply say, we will allow the authorities in Bangladesh to conduct investigation. You provide a notice to us, we will give you access to Sheikh Hasina. We will allow you to collect all the information, all the proof or all the evidence that you want to collect, but she will continue to remain. She will continue to remain in India but under house arrest. Is the point clear? She will be under the house arrest. She will not be allowed to roam freely like any other person in India. She will be kept under house arrest. But we will not extradite her. You start the, right, let's say you start the legal proceedings. And by the way, please understand, in certain jurisdictions, generally when the legal proceedings are supposed to start, the accused has to be present. The accused must be present for the proceedings to start. But in case of Bangladesh and in many other countries, even without the accused being present, the lawyer can represent the alleged party or the accused party and the proceedings can begin. Even in case of International Criminal Court, ICC also, the proceedings are conducted, right, very recently were conducted in the same way. So the argument is, you have provisions for that. Start the legal proceedings. Cases are there, start. We will keep Sheikh Hasina under house arrest. You give us notice whenever you want to get access to her, to collect evidence, to record the statements, etc. We will give you access to that. Now, what is the use of this kind of a procedure? Essentially, Government of India is telling the Bangladesh government, yes, we understand that you need to conduct legal proceedings. We understand that. But because there are certain threats against the life of Sheikh Hasina, if she enters into Bangladesh, right, is there a scope of free trial? Is there a threat to her life? Of course, yes. So in order to protect her as well, we will provide this kind of a solution. This is the first one. And this will also be valid according to the writers here. Why? Just because this person has received or is alleged to have committed certain crimes in Bangladesh, it doesn't mean that she will not enjoy certain rights when she is present in India. In fact, Supreme Court of India under various judgments has said, even to certain foreign citizens who are present in India, they will enjoy fundamental rights. They will enjoy various fundamental rights in India. For example, the fundamental right provided under Article 14, Article 20, 21, 22, 23, etc. Various of these fundamental rights are available even to the foreign citizens when they are present in India. So, because of these kind of, let's say, complexities, we will not extradite her right away, but we will not deny your right to conduct judicial proceedings. You can conduct that. And even if there is, let's say, a judgment issued against Sheikh Hasina where she is supposed to be imprisoned, the Government of India can simply say, we will conduct the application of that judgment in India. So that is one solution that has been recommended in the article. What is the second solution? What is the second solution? The second solution is, in the context of International Criminal Court, ICC, the argument of the authors or the writers here is that Bangladesh is party to ICC. Now, one solution that they can basically find, that is an escalation from the current situation, is approach ICC. But the writers are simply saying, no doubt there are allegations against Sheikh Hasina for having, let's say, being involved in crimes against humanity, where generally the ICC has the right or ICC can intervene and take up such cases. Provided, what is the complexity here? The complexity is, there is no guarantee that if Sheikh Hasina is extradited to Bangladesh, there will be free and fair conduct of judiciary. What if because of, right, let's say the opinion of the government there, or because of, right, let's say vengeance angle, etc., there is no free and fair trial conducted for Sheikh Hasina. So in such cases, even the ICC rules say, or the sections of the ICC, basically the Rome statutes say, in such cases, the life of the accused will be more important. In simple terms, we will not be allowed to extradite her. So what is the second solution here? Second solution is, we can simply hand over Sheikh Hasina to ICC, but with the condition that she shall not be sent to Bangladesh to face these criminal charges. Right, so these are the two recommendations that have been provided, right, by these two writers regarding the dilemma that Government of India is facing in the context of the extradition request that has been, issued or let's say submitted officially by the Bangladesh government to Government of India. Done? Right, so these are certain important points regarding the first article. Let me go to the second article. UPI Duopoly, Rise and Market Vulnerabilities. What are the important points? The UPI, that is Unified Payments Interface, it's been multiple years since the introduction of this kind of a digital payment system or online payment system. And many of the students generally are confused between, let's say, UPI and let's say some other payment system. Right? For example, they will be confused between a wallet from where the money is transferred into another wallet with UPI. UPI is not a wallet, by the way. Okay, it's neither a wallet nor any kind of, right, let's say money holding technology. UPI essentially is a platform. It's a system which will help you to transfer funds from one account to another account. UPI in India has been developed by NPCI, National Payments Corporation of India. And by the way, please remember, there is a set of guidelines in India under Reserve Bank of India. That is, there is an act by the name of Payment Settlement Systems Act. Payment Settlement Systems Act, PSS 2007. Under the PSS, essentially multiple types of payment systems are identified. For example, there will be paper mode of a payment system. There will be digital mode of a payment system as well. For example, paper mode of a payment system. Example for this is a check. A check is issued by one person in the name of another person, basically transferring funds. It's a mode of a payment. On the other side, a digital mode of a payment. For example, NEFT, National Electronic Fund Transfer, RTGS, Real-Time Gross Settlement, or even for that matter, UPI. All these are digital payment systems. And under the PSS Act, RBI has allowed NPCI to operate UPI, to provide the facility of UPI for settling transactions or conducting transactions. Point number one. Point number two. Now, with the introduction of UPI, multiple companies have started providing the facility of UPI. These are essentially called as third-party app providers. Remember the name here? It is mentioned here as well. Third-party app providers. Right? So, various TPAPs have originated and functioning in India. Sir, what is the meaning of a third-party app provider? I'm pretty sure all of you, or let's say most of you, are either using Phone Pay or let's say Google Pay to settle transaction or conduct transaction. Today is 31st, by the way, and tomorrow is 1st. Most of you are in a party mood already. Most of you want to go to party or let's say go to a movie, right, have food outside, etc. Now tell me, when you're outside, either today or tomorrow, or it was yesterday, a lot of you would have made the payment using Google Pay or Phone Pay, where basically you are scanning a QR code and transferring the funds from your one account to another account. But here, please understand, I said UPI was developed by NPCI, but you are using an app provided by one more company to use UPI to transfer funds, which essentially means the facility of UPI or the technology of UPI or infrastructure of UPI, you are using that using one more company's app. That is essentially a third-party app provider. In case of India, there are multiple companies which are providing TPAP services. You have Google Pay and you have Phone Pay. In addition to this, you have multiple companies, but the article focuses on these two. Focus again on this. Why? Please understand, the Google Pay plus Phone Pay put together account for more than 80% of the total UPI transactions are done in India. More than 80%, mind you. And as of now, even if there is such a huge market or such large volume as well as value of UPI transactions are conducted, even today, just 30% of the total population uses these kind of digital tools such as UPI to make transaction. Which means in the future, that is in the coming days, there is a huge potential to increase the market share, bring more and more population under the digital transfer methods. There is a huge potential. But there are certain concerns associated with this. What are the concerns? Right? Listen to these concerns. These are very, very important because these concerns are nothing new. These concerns were raised by earlier many experts, including many of these, right? Let's say the experts associated with the government itself. What are the concerns? Point number one. When two companies, right, that is GPay and PhonePe, Google Pay and PhonePe, when two companies can account for 80% of the transaction, this is a problem associated with a concept called as concentration risk. Concentration risk. And although I'm talking about only UPI here, you can expand this argument to many other things, even in banking and otherwise also. Concentration risk. What do you mean by concentration risk? Let's say today, New Year celebrations. Lot of the people throughout India, not just India, around the world as well, are basically celebrating the, right, let's say coming of the New Year, and they will be conducting lot of transactions. And because there are, right, let's say at the same point of time, crores of transactions trying to be processed by the servers here, don't you think because only two companies are used or preferred, the servers might become very busy? And if the servers become very, very busy, many of the transactions will also fail. You must have experienced this kind of an outcome on weekends earlier as well. So imagine, right, most of the people, including me by the way, we are using one of the two entities to make a UPI transaction. If one of these two fails, right, the PhonePe accounts for around 45% and Google Pay accounts for around 38%. If one of these two entities do not process the transaction, fail, there is a server crash, etc., can you imagine the impact on the whole system? Right? I hope you understand this. There will be a huge impact on the whole system, which is basically being used to conduct transactions. And a lot of times, because the UPI is so much used, so used widely, we do not even carry cash. We do not carry purse or the wallet also. We simply carry mobile phone. So imagine the impact that it will create if one of these two stops operating, crashes, faces glitches, etc., etc. Right? So this is essentially the problem of concentration risk. Right? Is it clear? Now I said you can apply the same logic in other areas as well. For example, imagine one bank is giving loans. What if majority of the loans are given to only one borrower? And if this borrower incurs loss, faces loss and shuts down the company, can you imagine the impact of that on the banking sector? That is the precise reason even in the banking sector, right, there is a concentration risk, and that's a reason there are limits whenever the loans are supposed to be provided. Okay, so first one is concentration risk. Second one is if only two companies, that is let's say duopoly, because more than 80% are controlled by two companies. If there's a duopoly, do you think they will invest money in research and development? Think of it. If there is a duopoly, do you think they will invest money in R&D, create better tools, better technology, better services for you, for me to use? Because the argument here is because there is no sufficient competition. Competitors are not there. Even if they are there, they account for 4%, 5%, 6% of the total market share. These companies will not be worried about investing more and more and providing better facilities, better services to users. Will this not hurt you and me in the long term? Can I basically extrapolate the same argument to telecom sector? Gone are the days when you used to get, right, let's say the services at a cheaper cost. Today, don't you think most of the service providers who are providing the telecom services to you have increased their pricing of or have increased their tariffs of the products or the services that they are providing? That happens when there is a lack of competition, right? So investment in R&D, they will not be worried about it. They will try to simply maintain the same market share because no competition. Third one is data protection and privacy. Data protection and privacy. right? What is the issue of data protection and privacy? You look at the ownership of Google Pay, foreign company. Look at the ownership of PhonePe. It is owned by one more foreign company, Walmart. But here the issue is, when foreign companies will have ownership of these entities which control majority of the market share of UPI, don't you think now there will be concerns over the data protection of the customers, the privacy of the customers? What if this data is stored in a server outside India? Already this is a concern, not just in India, but in many other countries. Your sensitive financial information is accessible to foreign entities, foreign companies. Is it not a big concern? Of course, yes. So these are some of the concerns which have been raised against the duopoly because of these two companies holding majority of the market share in the UPI market. So what is the solution then? What should be done? We need to promote domestically grown TPAPs. We must promote domestically grown TPAPs. For example, until very recently, Paytm had a very good market share. Although I know many of you will start commenting, sir, even in Paytm, foreign investment was there, right, etc., etc. Argument is simple. It was domestically grown, right? Domestically having investment, majority of the investment from the domestic market, the company which used to provide TPAP. Right? But because of certain, right, let's say decisions that they have taken, the imposition of restrictions by Reserve Bank of India, the market share of Paytm has taken a hit. So argument is, right, we need to promote development of these kinds of domestically grown TPAP service providers. And the regulator such as NPCI also needs to impose certain restrictions so that these companies do not end up basically cornering the market share. Right? Because these are very big companies. And when you talk about UPI facilities or UPI services, if a new entrant has to come, compete with these two companies, they will have to invest thousands of crores of money. Thousands of crores of money, not a small amount of investment. So certain facilities or certain, let's say, measures should be taken to control the growth, to basically ensure that they will not expand and cover more and more market share. There will be limited share allocated to them, which is being done by NPCI. In addition to that, we need to promote the development and the growth of domestically or homegrown TPAP service providers. Done? Right, so these are certain things mentioned in the article here. Now, based on this, I've given a very easy MCQ, by the way. Consider the following statements and how many of these, or choose the correct option. NPCI is authorized under PSS Act to operate as a payment settlement system. UPI is a public good. Right, whether only first statement is true, only second is true, both are true or both are false. Do let me know in the chat section. If you do not know the answer, don't worry. I will give you the key answer at the end of the session. Okay, next. One more article, right? A central page article, currency concerns. In recent times, I'm pretty sure you must have seen this. Indian rupee is depreciating. Correct? Indian rupee is depreciating against the dollar. And it has depreciated to historic low. Until very recent times, historic low was 84 rupees. It has breached 84 against the dollar, hit 85, and now it is inching towards 86. It is inching towards and stabilizing at around 86 rupees. It will be again a historic low against the dollar. Now, some of you might be thinking, sir, why? What is happening? And very important concepts I'll discuss here. Please listen to me very, very carefully. What is happening? Why, right? Why this kind of a depreciation is happening, right, etc. Now listen to me very carefully. Some of the reasons which have contributed to this depreciation, which many experts say will continue for some more months, some more weeks, at least some more weeks in the coming year, are the following. First one, the Chinese government announced multiple policies to basically promote recovery in the domestic market. The Chinese economy faced unprecedented slowdown in recent times, and in order to promote a recovery, the Chinese government made huge amount of, let's say, stimulus packages, or let's say announced a lot of assistance to promote recovery. And when a country such as China, which is one of the largest markets by the way, announces these kind of policies, and the market investors will look at that, they will feel they will be able to get better returns, earn better returns based on good valuations of the companies in the Chinese market. And that is the precise reason why a lot of these foreign investments have gone out of India, have entered into Chinese market. Is the point one clear? In fact, in yesterday's newspaper, Indian Express, there was one article which should raise a certain, let's say alarm bells at the government level. The article basically said, the net FPI inflow, I repeat, the net FPI inflow. What do you mean by net FPI? FPI will come into India, FPI will go out of India. The net FPI inflow for the year 2024 has fallen down by 99% compared to previous year. Is the point clear to all of you? The net FPI inflow has fallen down compared to previous year. In this year, it has fallen down by 99%. Right? Which basically means the inflow in the form of FPI, the overall inflow is very small compared to what it was last year. And you need investments in the stock market, in the equity market, you need a lot of investments. So one reason why there is basically a depreciating rupee is because of recovery in China. Second reason is thanks to the elections of elections in USA, and Mr. Donald Trump being elected as the president has also led to a lot of, let's say, demand for dollars. Lot of confidence has been made in dollars, that is investment in dollars. And as such, because Mr. Donald Trump always talks about America first policy, it is expected that his initial policies again will be focused on promoting growth, promoting higher GDP investments in America. Lot of investments again are going back like this. So the elections in USA are also a reason. Okay, elections in USA. Third reason, the deficit, trade deficit. Right, I hope you have read about this article. India registered one of the largest trade deficit, which was also evident looking at the current account deficit. Mind you, the current account deficit for the previous quarter is at around 1.2%. Is at around 1.2% of GDP. And for the current quarter, we are yet to finish the third quarter of the current financial year. For the current quarter, it is expected to almost double. It is expected to almost double, which is more than 2%, which is a very dangerous territory to be in looking at the current account deficit and the availability of forex reserves. Because mind you, if there is a trade deficit, dollars will go out. If there is a current account deficit, it also means overall in the current account, the dollars are going out. In such situations, what does the central bank generally do? What does the central bank generally do? Central bank will use the forex reserves to stabilize rupee. And look at the problem here. Please understand the complexity of the situation. If the central bank intervenes too much to stabilize rupee, basically it will lead to overvaluation of rupee. All of you able to understand this? Right? It will mean overvaluation of rupee. That is, the actual rupee should have been much lower. But because the RBI has intervened in the forex market, it has sold the dollars, purchased rupees, right? The actual value should have been much lesser, but because of RBI intervention, it is higher at this level. Is it not overvaluation? It will lead to overvaluation, and that is precisely the reason. Remember one more indicator now. There is an index by the name of REER. We have discussed this earlier, but you should know this. I am expecting one question in the prelims surrounding the concept of NEER and REER in next prelims. Why? Because of such huge discussion. The REER index basically shows that rupee is overvalued. Because understand this, many of you will be wondering about this kind of a statement. Sir, I have read in the book that with rupee depreciation, India's exports should increase. Correct? Your argument will be, with rupee depreciation, India's exports should increase. We should be able to export more and more, earn more and more. But my dear, in reality, this doesn't hold true. In reality, it doesn't happen this way. Why? Reason is simple. Rather than looking at only rupee depreciation value, you should be looking at one more index by the name of REER. If REER is higher, if it keeps on increasing at above 100, it is basically a problem. It shows that rupee is overvalued. Indian exports, right, will start losing competitiveness. So I hope you understand, right? Basically, remember these concepts. And if your argument is, sir, rupee depreciates, exports should increase from India, then my counter question will be, what happened then? Why did we register a trade deficit very recently? And the expected, understand this, the expectation is that this year, the rupee will depreciate against the dollar by 2.7%. The year is not yet over, I know that, right? By the end of this year, right, the rupee is expected to depreciate by around 2%, 2.5 to 2.7% against the dollar. And if this happens, this will be the 7th consecutive year. This will be the 7th consecutive year when Indian rupee would have depreciated against the dollar, right? That is the 7th consecutive year. So does it mean Indian exports have increased in the last 7 years? Consecutively, they have kept on increasing. No. Why? The exports are hurt when you look at other indices. That's the reason. Do not look at only the rupee depreciation and jump to a conclusion. Yes, with rupee depreciation, we will enjoy more and more exports. No. In addition to this, like I said, there is a concern regarding intervention of the central bank. They cannot continue to do this. There is a limitation on it. In addition to this, there is one more concern associated with the rupee depreciation. That is, imports will become costlier. Imports will become costlier. There is no doubt regarding this. This is happening and this is going to happen in the next couple of weeks as well. Because mind you, India is a net importer. India is a net importer. And when you're a net importer and your domestic currency depreciates, imports will become costlier and this is going to cause imported inflation. This is going to cause imported inflation. Done? Right? So these are certain things, very important things by the way, which are being discussed in this editorial associated with currency concerns of Indian rupee. Okay? Now, associated with this, I've given an MCQ. Please have a look at the statements. Debt servicing burden of corporates under masala bonds. The condition is there is a rupee depreciation. Okay? The debt servicing burden of corporates under masala bonds will increase. The import cover increases. This causes imported inflation in India. How many of these three statements are likely to take place in India with rupee depreciation? How many of them are correct, are likely to happen? Do let me know. If you do not know, wait for the discussion at the end of the session. Now, next one, private members bill. There is an analysis which has been provided by PRS. Right? PRS has conducted an analysis regarding private members bill and its effectiveness in India's parliament. That is specifically Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Now, what are the important points here? Whenever you talk about private member, essentially it means anybody who is a member of either a Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha and not a minister. Is my statement clear? Right? If the member is not a minister and is a member of a Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha, they are referred to as private members. Now, when the government, that is a minister, will introduce a bill, it's a government bill or also referred as a public bill. But apart from the minister, anybody else in the parliament introduces a bill, it is called as a private bill. Simple. It is called as a private bill. The private bill can be introduced by the members of the parliament, either in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha. Before the introduction of the bill, they need to provide 1 month's notice. They are supposed to provide 1 month's notice. Until very recently, right, the private members bill were allowed a larger number in terms of threshold. They were allowed to introduce larger number of bills. But when they introduce these bills, generally it is discussed in the second session or the second half of alternative Fridays. The problem is, with more and more bills being introduced by the private members, and when it is discussed only on this particular day, that is the second half of the Friday, on alternative Fridays, there will be a lot of pending bills. That's a precise reason the limit has been decided now. Limit is that in a session, they are allowed to introduce 3 bills, and that too with a notice of 1 month. Okay, these are certain important points. Now, what this article discusses is that if you look at how much time has been spent in Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, that is specifically the 17th Lok Sabha. Right now we are having 18th Lok Sabha, 2024 to 2029. The 17th Lok Sabha essentially spanned for the years, or was from the years 2019 to 2024. In these 5 years, the PRS research or the PRS survey shows that in these 4 years, 9.08 hours were spent on private members' bills in Lok Sabha, and 27 hours, around 27 hours was spent in Rajya Sabha discussing private members' bills. Which basically shows that in addition to this, you need to remember one more fact. Although multiple proposals, that is private members' bills, have been proposed after 1970, right? Mind you, after 1970, no private member bill has been passed by both of the houses. No private bill has been passed by both of the houses, right? These are some of the examples. 14 examples are there, right? These are some of the examples, and the last one, a private member bill which was passed, was essentially this one, Supreme Court Enlargement of Criminal Appellate Jurisdiction Bill 1968. And what is the importance of this article? Why should you read this article? Basically, in democracy, we elect representatives. The representatives in the parliament, whether they are part of the government, that is in the minister position, or they are simply members of the parliament, they have every right to introduce a bill. And if it is a private member bill, it showcases that the other members, or let's say at least some of the members in the parliament, are worried about some of the other things which are not focused sufficiently by the government. It's an indication that government is not giving sufficient importance to a particular issue, and that has led to this member in the parliament to introduce this bill. But if you look at how much resolutions are discussed, how many hours are spent to discuss the bill, how many are passed, it shows a situation where there is inefficiency in the functioning or the utilization of this particular route to make laws, to introduce laws in India. Done? So that is essentially what has been provided in the article. What is the concern which has been raised here? Mr. Jairam Ramesh, right, an MP, Mr. Jairam Ramesh says, all round, right, that is, it is not a blame to be, right, associated with one political party. All round, it is a blame which has to be taken by all the members. Why? Generally, the members are not worried. They ignore these kind of things. And because they are ignoring, and this business is taken on Friday, his argument is, on Friday, the MPs are more worried about going back to their constituency. It's like teaching you, right? Let's say you are in a college. The last class on Saturday, it is like that. The last class on Saturday, you'll be more worried about Sunday. You'll be more thinking about what to do on Sunday. And it is also equivalent to trying to teach you today on 31st morning, right? Trying to teach you economics or polity when you are more worried about what you should do today evening and what you will be doing tomorrow. So your focus will be more around that when, right, you are a member of parliament and when you take up the discussion on Friday. So what is the solution? He has recommended that we should take it up in the midweek. The private members' bills should be taken up for discussion in the midweek, let's say on Wednesday, rather than on Friday, so that there will be, let's say certain outcomes because of the discussion. People will be focused, members will be focused, interested, right, in the discussion. Right, so these are certain important things associated with the private members bill. Okay. Now, MCQ number 61. Consider the following statements regarding private members bill. These bills can be introduced either in Lok Sabha or in Rajya Sabha and in Rajya Sabha. These bills do not lapse under any condition. There is no restriction on the number of private bills to be introduced. Okay, how many of these statements are true? Do let me know. If you do not know the answer, I will give you at the end. Some more time, have patience. Next article. The government of Rajasthan, the state government of Rajasthan has announced that they will be dissolving 9 states out of 17, sorry, 9 districts, not states, 9 districts out of 17 districts which were created by the earlier government. That is the earlier government which was basically headed by Mr. Ashok Gehlot. In 2023, announced creation of 17 districts. Announced creation of 17 districts. Mind you, the state of Rajasthan was created in 1959, and when it was created in 1959, it had 26 districts. And over a period of time, 7 more districts were created, taking the total to 33 districts by 2023. And the government then basically set up a committee. Remember the name of the committee? Suddenly this can be asked in the prelims. And at least those people who are writing, let's say, the other exams at the state level, these kind of questions can be asked. The government then set up a committee, that is a Ram Lubhaya committee. Based on the recommendation of this committee, the government then said, we need to create more number of districts. In addition to the existing 33, the government announced creation of 17, taking the total number of districts to 50. And generally, when these districts are drawn like this, what is the procedure? The rules or the laws basically give the power to the state government. In case of the state districts, it is the state government which has the power to create or basically dissolve or merge these kind of districts. Whenever it is renaming, you should remember the central government will get involved. Renaming. But creation, dissolution, etc., it is basically the power of the state government itself. The state government, either through executive authority, that is through an order, or through a bill, is allowed to basically redraw the borders of the districts like this, create districts, or basically convert, let's say, small regions, panchayats into districts like this. This power is given to the state government. So the state government back in 2023 announced creation of 17 more districts, which took the total number of districts to 50. Now elections were conducted. After the election, a new government was formed. The new government simply says, we do not have sufficient funding allocated for new districts. There is no plan. The earlier government has not given any kind of a sufficient funding for the new districts created. Because mind you, the argument for creation of district is, rather than having a large district which becomes unmanageable, which basically makes it very difficult for people to get access to services, for administration to go to the district headquarters, etc., let's create divisions. Let's split the district like this, so that smaller districts will become easier to administer. So with that logic, generally the districts are made like this. So now the new government says, the earlier government did not have any kind of a efficient financial allocation for the new districts made. The earlier government did not follow the procedures or the guidelines which have been set up by the central government, where parameters have been provided for population, for let's say administration, etc., to create districts like this. Citing this, the new government has announced that 9 of the districts, 9 out of the total 17 which were created by the earlier government, these will be dissolved. These will be basically joined into the earlier districts like this, and the number of districts will be reduced. From 50, it will be reduced to 41 district. Against this, the political parties have raised certain issues. They have started protesting, mainly led by the Congress political party. Their argument is, why not have smaller districts? What is the logic in basically dissolving these districts? One of the arguments that they have given is, look at a state such as Madhya Pradesh. Look at a state such as Madhya Pradesh, much smaller or smaller compared to Rajasthan. When Madhya Pradesh, smaller compared to Rajasthan, can have 53 districts, why not the state of Rajasthan, which is much larger? Right? So this has taken a political angle. You don't enter into politics here. You focus on the aspects or the concepts associated with creation, right? Dissolution, right? Basically the process of all of this associated with the district. Done? Okay. Next article. Center not to release its 2023 Good Governance Index. Rather, it will focus on 2025. This article was published or is published in today's Indian Express. Now, what are the important points? The Government of India, specifically within the Government of India, there is a Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. Right? Department of Administrative Reforms and Public Grievances. This particular department publishes a report once every 2 years. For the first time, this report was published in 2019. After that, this was published in 2021. And very recently also, I'm not talking about all India report, very recently also, there was a report published in the context of Maharashtra. I don't know how many of you have seen or at least right heard of that particular report. Even for the state of Maharashtra, a district good governance index, DGGI, a district good governance index was published for the state of Maharashtra, which was released by Mr. Fadnavis. So please be very careful. So 2019 report was published, 2021 report was published. Now when you say report was published, what does the report basically entail? There are certain parameters which are considered, and the performance of the states on these parameters is evaluated and the report is published. For example, in 2021, the latest report which was published under this, 58 indicators or 58 parameters were considered and the performance of the states regarding that were published. Now, the next report was supposed to be published in 2023. And generally, whenever you talk about Good Governance Index, please remember this. There is a week that is celebrated in India, that is Good Governance Week. That is done from 19th of December to 25th of December. And basically to coincide the birth anniversary of Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And finally, right towards 24th and 25th, the government used to publish, at least in the last 2 rounds, publish the Good Governance Index. But now the government officials have stated that for 2023, we were supposed to publish the report in 2024. That is, we are in the December 2024. They were supposed to publish the report. But the authorities now have stated publishing report for 2023 in 24 might give outdated data. It might simply indicate an outdated information. And that's the reason government now has announced that they will not be publishing the report for 2023. Rather, they will directly publish the report in 2025. That is essentially the gist of the article provided here regarding, right, let's say the Good Governance Index. Done? Okay. Now next one more article from Business Line. This is associated with SVAMITVA Scheme. In fact, I hope you have attended my earlier UCAN session. I took a UCAN session couple of days ago. In that UCAN session, I discussed the initiative of SVAMITVA Yojana. So it is just an update here. What is SVAMITVA? SVAMITVA scheme refers to survey of villages and mapping with improvised technology in village areas. Under this, which has been launched by the Government of India, specifically the Ministry of Panchayat Raj, back in the year 2020, we are going to use better technologies, assess, basically survey all the Abadi villages in India. Abadi villages essentially means those villages which are inhabited by people. So we are going to conduct a survey of all these Abadi villages, of course with assistance of the state governments, and we are going to create new maps for these villages. And once we conduct a survey, right, understand this, once we conduct a survey, the government will be issuing SVAMITVA property cards. The government will be issuing SVAMITVA property cards. Right, the latest round of property cards were supposed to be issued by the government last week. They were supposed to be issued. But because of, right, the news about Dr. Manmohan Singh, right, that is the news of Dr. Manmohan Singh passing away, the government of India cancelled or postponed that particular event. As of now, around 99%, around 99% or let's say more than 90% of the total, right, of the total villages under, right, let's say the SVAMITVA have been covered. Survey has been conducted and more than 2 crore property cards have been issued by the government, right? More than 2 crore with the latest 60 lakh, more than 2 crore property cards have been issued by the government. Done. But in addition to that, what the article says is, there are multiple states who have not been part of SVAMITVA scheme. They do not want to be, or they are not interested in being part of the SVAMITVA. Because mind you, it is a central sector scheme. What are the reasons? From one state to another state, there are different reasons. But understand overall, right? Overall, the reasons are one. In many of the states, right, basically they are saying, we have a similar scheme. We have a similar scheme, meaning we have a scheme where property cards have been issued. We do not want to cover more and more Abadi villages under the SVAMITVA. In some of the states, they are saying there is already existing, right, let's say certain laws in the state, and under these particular laws, the property cards, right, or let's say the survey has been conducted, property rights has been issued. Now this will complicate issue. Right, because of multiple reasons like this, 10 states are yet to join the SVAMITVA scheme. And if you're wondering, sir, what is the importance of such a scheme? Please understand, one very important area associated with India, you talk about social issues or economics, etc. One area will be land rights, right? The land rights or the property titles. And over a period of time, in case of India, it has been found that there are problems with clean titles or clean property rights, wherein certain property falls into a dispute because there is more than one person who is claiming the right over this piece of land. And when it falls into a dispute, in case of India, the judiciary will take a very longer period to give you clean title or a clear title. And so through various other reforms, including SVAMITVA, the government of India wants to provide clear property rights to the owners, using which they can use the property, mobilize the property to borrow from the banks, etc., etc. Done? Okay. Next article, right? Just a small piece of information here. Wayanad landslides. This year, there was a deadly landslide which occurred in Wayanad, that is in the state of Kerala. More than 200 people, right? More than 200 people lost their lives because of it. In addition to loss of lives, many of the households have been basically, right, relocated. Many of them lost their livelihoods, etc., etc. So the impact has been devastating. Now, in addition to that, there was a demand from the state of Kerala government. The state of Kerala demanded that the center should announce that the Wayanad landslides were a national disaster, not natural, national disaster. It was a national calamity. Government of India, basically understand this, whenever these kind of disasters happen, the Ministry of Home Affairs forms a committee, forms a group of people. It is essentially called as Interministerial Central Team. Interministerial Central Team. And this is not only in the context of Wayanad, by the way. Couple of months ago, there was heavy rainfalls in Gujarat. There was a IMCT formed to evaluate the impact of it. In northeastern states also, in many cases, disasters have taken place. IMCTs have been formed for that also. Essentially, in case of Wayanad, a 9-member IMCT was made by the government. They visited and they've announced that, or they basically categorized this as a disaster of severe nature. The Wayanad landslide has been categorized as disaster of severe nature. Now, what is the importance of all of this? Essentially, understand this. Right now, we do not have any kind of a classification of a disaster where we will declare that as a national disaster. We do not have any kind of a law, any kind of a classification regarding that. In fact, earlier also we have tried this. And earlier also in multiple disasters, there have been requests, there have been calls for declaring this as a national disaster. But the government of India has refrained from classifying in this way because there is no classification. For example, under basically the NDRF guidelines, that is a National Disaster let's say Response Fund guidelines, essentially you classify this as a man-made disaster or a natural disaster. Again, under that there are classifications, etc. And why is this classification used? It is used to allocate funds. It is essentially used to allocate funds because at the state level there is SDRF, at the national level there is NDRF. When the disaster hits a particular state, the funds are already available to the state under SDRF. They can simply take it. But in addition to this, if they need additional funds, if they require more funds, then the funds shall be released from NDRF. But that will be done only after the evaluation or the estimation done by IMCT. That's the reason in the context of Wayanad, IMCT has simply declared that it is a disaster of severe nature, not according to the demand of the state government of Kerala that it should be declared as a national calamity or national disaster. Okay, so this is one more point associated with the state of Kerala and the disaster management. Next one, defense contract. In this article, there is one very important point, that is essentially the concept of air independent propulsion. Air independent propulsion, AIP, indigenously developed air independent propulsion. I'm pretty sure most of you, or at least let's say all of you, have heard of Scorpene class of submarines in India. The Scorpene class of submarines. It is basically a joint venture in a sense, that is French company and Indian company. They have a joint venture where there's a transfer of technology and we are developing Scorpene submarines. Now, whenever you talk about submarines, these can be nuclear submarines or these can be diesel run submarines. That is, they use diesel to run the submarines. Now, in case of the Scorpene, these are essentially the second one, that is the latter one. Now, why nuclear submarines are not generally preferred in India, or why we are still focused on the diesel run submarines? Essentially, to develop nuclear operated submarines, the cost will be very high. In addition to the costing factor, in terms of stealth, that is essentially submarines are used to conduct exercises, naval exercises, to basically conduct surveillance operations, etc. In that case, you need to basically protect yourself from being identified or recognized by different technology. In case of diesel run submarines, these are said to be much better in terms of stealth, having let's say stealth capability compared to nuclear run submarines. And that is the precise reason even today diesel operated submarines are still preferred, are still used by many countries, including India. Now, what is the issue here? Issue is, when you use these kind of submarines, you need to basically get access to air many of the times. Essentially, you have fuel cells, right? So, there are cells. These fuel cells need to get access to air so that they can recharge. And that is the reason there is an operation conducted by submarines called as snorkeling. There is an operation, that is an activity conducted by submarines called as snorkeling. That is, the submarines will come to the surface layer of the water, essentially to ensure that they have sufficient access to air, refill the cell and again go down into the deeper depth of the sea. And this activity is called as snorkeling. But when they are involved in the snorkeling, and in many cases the submarines have to come 2 times a day rather than 1 time a day, 2 times a day because of, let's say, heavy usage. Now there is a danger that they can be identified and there can be attacks on the submarine. So what is the solution to all of this? There is an indigenous technology which has been developed by DRDO by the name of AIP, that is Air Independent Propulsion Module. In this AIP, please understand, the one that has been developed in India by DRDO basically uses, right, it uses a different type of technology. It uses a different type of technology, that is, it uses cells which are phosphoric acid based fuel cells. Phosphoric acid based fuel cell system. Whereas other countries, right, which are still using these kind of fuel cells, either they are oxygen or hydrogen. So in case of the AIP developed by DRDO, it is phosphoric acid based fuel cell. The importance of this is that rather than coming to the surface of the water for recharging of the fuel cell, now they do not have to come to the surface. Using this technology, they do not have to come to the surface. Right, which means, right, let's say the operations by these submarines can be done in much secure, in a much better stealthy way. Right, that is the importance of the AIP developed by DRDO. We want to fit them into the submarines, right? We want to fit them into the Scorpion, right, a class of submarines that are being developed in India. Right, so this is one more important article. Please make a note of this. Right, Jimmy Carter, the former president of USA. Right, 1924 to 2024, very recently he celebrated 100th birthday as such. So the former president, 39th president of USA, passed away. What is the importance of, right, let's say the government, or let's say the administration of Mr. Jimmy Carter, or former President Jimmy Carter? He was president from 1977 to 1981. He has also won the Nobel Peace Prize back in the year 2002. Right, the Panama Canal, right, we have discussed the Panama Canal couple of days ago, right, hardly 2 days. The Panama Canal, the agreement to transfer the administration of Panama Canal to the government of Panama was signed by, right, the President Jimmy Carter, by the way. It was signed by this president only. In addition to this, in 1978, this is 1977, 1978, right, this president visited India. Right, Mr. Morarji Desai was the Prime Minister. Both of them signed an agreement very famously called as a Delhi Declaration. This was also the point of time where USA wanted India to be part of the NPT, impose certain restrictions on the usage or the nuclear tests that we were conducting, etc. In addition to this, please remember the other point as well. There is a village in India, that is in Haryana, which is named after Jimmy Carter, right? That is Carterpuri. That has been done basically because when he was the president, visited India, he visited this village. And the reason why he visited the village was because his mother, when she was basically involved in the healthcare, when she visited India, she provided the services there. That's the reason he, when visited India, visited the village, and right, to basically commemorate that, to basically celebrate that, that village has been named as Carterpuri. Okay, done. So these are certain important points associated with the Jimmy Carter. Next, right, couple of points. Stopping influx from Myanmar. Every year, please understand, at the end of the year, in the month of December, the ministries come out with year-end review. Right, couple of points from this year-end review of Ministry of Home Affairs. The Ministry of Home Affairs has basically published the review, which says that they have decided to end, the concept of FMR, that is a free movement regime. Right, earlier Chetan sir has discussed in detail regarding FMR. That's the reason I am not repeating it. Right, so FMR regime that existed between India and Myanmar because of the complicated border issue between both of these countries, the FMR regime was present, and this regime has been decided by government of India to be withdrawn. Right, in addition to that, another important point that again, I'm pretty sure you must be knowing this, just an addition you can remember is how many states share border with Myanmar? What is the length of this border that is shared by the states in India with Myanmar? This can be a potential preliminary question. Potential preliminary question. That is simply they will ask you in terms of descending order, right? Mention or arrange the states in terms of length of border that they share with Myanmar. Right? That can be a very, not a very difficult question conceptually, but factually difficult question. Right? Another kind of question being asked is, which of the following states share border with Myanmar? Right? So please make a note of this. This can be asked in the prelims. Beyond this, I don't think so anything is necessary from the article. Okay. Now let me give you key answers for the MCQs today. Consider the following statements. NPCI is authorized under the PSS Act to operate payment settlement system. Yes, that's the reason they are operating UPI. UPI is a public good. Yes, right? It is a digital public good. UPI is a digital public good. Okay. So both the statements are true. Right option will be option C. Both are correct. MCQ 60. With Indian rupee depreciating, how many of the following are likely outcomes? The external debt servicing burden of corporates under masala bonds will increase. Please be very careful. I'm technically using a term here, masala bonds. Under this, the debt will not increase. Why? Under masala bonds, the Indian company will borrow in rupees and repay in rupees. I hope you understand this. They will borrow in rupees and repay in rupees. Unlike, let's say, borrowing in dollar and repaying in dollar, here, borrow in rupees and repay in rupees. So if you borrow 100, you will repay 100. So what is the connection to rupee depreciation? No impact on the debt service here. So the statement is wrong. Debt servicing burden under masala bonds will not change. The import cover increases. Logical connection is, with more of rupee depreciation, the value of imports will increase. The cost will increase. India is a net importer, which means RBI has to use forex reserves, keep on supplying more and more forex reserves here to stabilize the rupee, to ensure sufficient dollars are available. That is likely to decrease the import cover. Okay, so the import cover doesn't increase, it decreases. It might cause imported inflation into India. Yes, it is very likely that it will cause imported inflation. Right option is only one, option A. Consider the following statements regarding private members' bill. These bills can be introduced in either Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. Yes. These bills do not lapse under any condition. No. Right? Understand, bills will lapse. Whether these are government bills or private bills, doesn't matter. There are conditions under which, right, basically the bills will lapse. Right? Apply the same logic here. So bills can lapse. There is no restriction on the number of private bills to be introduced. There is a restriction, like I said, per session, 3 private member bills. Only the first one is correct. Right option is option A. Only one is true. Now, some of the questions which were given, right, basically in the yesterday's video in the form of comments. Inflation to some extent is good for economy. Please explain why. Please understand, according to RBI, under the inflation targeting mechanism, we want to target inflation rate of 4%. So now question will be, sir, why 4%? Why not simply 0%? Because even 4% means the price levels have increased by 4% compared to a reference time period. The reason here is, there is something called as a healthy rate of inflation. Healthy rate of inflation. Right? That is, economy should experience inflation, but it should not go beyond a certain controlled level. So that's the reason, please understand, inflation up to 4% is acceptable in India. But why? Inflation is generally associated with demand. Demand is associated with growth. That's the reason we want good rate of inflation, good growth. Second, if the inflation rate is very high, it will lead to people postponing the demand to the future date. We do not want that to happen. Inflation should be there, but people should not feel the burden of it. That's the reason up to 4%, people are also not worried. For example, you yourself, think of it. If onion prices will increase from 40 rupees per kg to 42 rupees per kg, you will not be worried. At least a lot of you will not be worried. And many of you will simply say, sir, anyways, I am not worried because I don't go to shopping. Right? There are many people in my house who will shop. I am not worried. I'm not in touch with anything that happens in reality. I'm focused only on UPSC. Right? So argument here is 40 to 42, not a big deal. 40 to 80, 40 to 60, yes, it will be a big deal. So that's the reason healthy rate of inflation acceptable. And please understand, if the inflation rate is also very high, that might actually lead to wage price spiral. 2%, 3%, 4% acceptable, nothing wrong with that. Okay. So inflation to some extent is good for economy. Can the states directly borrow from RBI? Yes. Can the states directly borrow from RBI? Yes. There is a mechanism called as Ways and Means Advances. WMA, Ways and Means Advances. Under the Ways and Means Advances, the states, the center can borrow, but for a short duration. That is generally up to 90 days. They are allowed to borrow up to 90 days from Reserve Bank of India, and RBI will charge a rate of interest on this. Explain in a simple way how country buys goods from another country. Is it through money exchange if India buys helicopter from Russia, or is it goods exchange from one country to another country? Please understand, whenever one country will trade with another country, generally not always, because more than 50% it is done this way, we denominate the value of export in the form of dollars. We basically, right, value this dollar, convert the value of value this import or export in terms of dollar, right? So exports are denominated in dollar, payment is received in dollar. Okay. Next one, explain the concept of mutual fund versus SIP. Both are type of investments, but the difference is, in mutual funds, you purchase mutual funds and give certain amount of money. Is it okay? Let's say today I'll go to a mutual fund, let's say Franklin Templeton or ICICI, SBI mutual fund, right? There are mutual funds, let's say, right, 500 rupee per mutual fund. I want to purchase a 10. So I'll pay 500 into 10, 5,000 rupees and purchase mutual fund. And the company or the institution which has issued it, they will collect the money from different investors, pool the money, invest them in the debt market and equity market. Again, it will vary how much in which market, it will vary according to the type of mutual fund. But in case of SIP, systematic investment plan, I will not be focused on the number of units, I'll be focused on amount of investment. That is, let's say every month, not every year, every month. Every month, I will simply invest 1,000 rupees in mutual funds. Every month, I'll simply invest 1,000 rupees in the mutual funds. And what is the beauty of SIP? And that's the reason many of the investors are promoting SIP. Many of the let's say gurus, investment gurus are recommending SIP. When the mutual fund prices are higher, you're not spending more money. You will be purchasing lesser units of mutual funds, because every month you will invest 1,000 rupee. And when the mutual units prices are lesser, for the same 1,000, you will be getting more number of mutual funds. So basically, it is a concept of averaging like this. You're not spending too much amount of money when the prices are higher, which you're not supposed to do. And essentially, you're getting more units when the prices are lower. Right? That is a concept of a SIP. Okay, long-term investment strategy. It is a popular metric that compares a different countries' currencies through a basket of goods approach. Yes, this is a question on the concept of PPP, purchasing power parity. Yes, it is true. That is, you are comparing two different countries. And when you compare two different countries, same basket of goods and services, a similar basket of goods and services, what is the cost in USA? What is the cost in India? Take it, compare the exchange rate. That is called as exchange rate at purchasing power parity. GDP comparisons using PPP are considered more useful than using nominal GDP. Yes, this is also true. Reason being, purchasing power parity will exactly tell you what is the standard of life of people in two different countries. That exchange rate will tell you, right, how much goods and services can you purchase with the same amount of money in two different countries. Right, so that's the reason the second statement is also true. Why did Japan recently increase their interest rate? Please understand, until very recently, Japan used to follow a concept called as a negative interest rate policy. But very recently, consecutively, they have increased the interest rate. Reason being, they want to control the debt of the government. They are worried about inflation. They are worried about investments, etc. It's a very, very complicated issue. Complicated in the sense, there are multiple factors that you need to understand why Japan has done it and what is the impact of it. Okay, please explain fiscal deficit. Last question for today. Explain fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit in a nutshell is the difference between how much money you have earned and how much money you have spent. Government, when they present the budget, will say they want to spend 100 crore rupees. But the incomes that they would have earned will be, let's say, 80 crore rupees. How can you spend 100 crore but earning only 80 crore? Not possible. So essentially, to bridge this gap, government will borrow. This is called as fiscal deficit. So in a nutshell, the borrowings are done by the government in that year is called as fiscal deficit. Okay, so these are the various questions which were asked by learners in my previous video. Before I close the session, I want to be the first to wish you a very, very happy new year in advance. Please celebrate. Don't worry about the exams. Exams are always there. Celebrate. But more importantly, celebrate responsibly. Take care. See you in the next session whenever I take. All the best to all of you. I wish all of your wishes and dreams come true in the new year. If you are yet to subscribe to our channel, kindly do hit the like button and also subscribe to our YouTube channel right now. Thank you. Have a great day.